has embraced him from day one. Shot clock is off. They'll run it out. The Thunder have taken the NBA by storm. For the first time, the NBA champion resides in Oklahoma City.
Sunday, June 22nd, 2025. A day that will live forever in Oklahoma City Thunder lore. This day has been close to 2 decades in the making for this franchise. Thunder fans have seen it all. MVPs, all defensive players, and some of the league's most transcendent superstars of a generation come and go. And now, Oklahoma City is host to the NBA's potentially most powerful juggernaut of the 2020s decade, loaded with young star talent, NBA champions, hungry for more. And the scary part is that this team just might be getting started. But how did the Thunder get here? Let's find out, shall we?
The great ones like Pat Riley will find you, and the great ones like Kevin Durant will dunk on you as well if you make it to this level. But you love seeing him attack the basket. As it comes, the time, for Serge Ibaka on the basket, looking to distribute, finds Shea, steps back from the three, on the
led all players in the regular season scoring off the bench.
Harden spins into Dort. Great defense. Across the lane, spins. Finds Neesmith. Blocked by Aubrey. Dort for save.
It'll be an NBA record margin of victory for the Grizzlies tonight.
In case you think you are, don't worry. You are not seeing that scoreboard wrong. This was your 2025 NBA champions just 3.5 years prior. A record 73-point defeat against the eventual second seed in the Western Conference that year. A team that finished the season with a whopping 58 losses. That had hit such a rock bottom low that even in a rebuild, some began to doubt the people who had been in charge of reassembling a core for the future. Specifically one man, and that was general manager Sam Presti.
Sam Presti.
You talk about Sam Presti, and he's made a hell of a lot of good basketball deals. They finished with no titles and even more.
15 years on the job. Not one damn chip to show for it. That's Sam Presti we talking about here. So Sam Presti can compile draft picks, hoard draft picks with the best of them. I'll give him that. OKC has 3 first-round picks coming up in the 2022 draft alone, and that's great. If you're good at identifying talent, I'll even give Sam Presti credit for that. But OKC really hasn't drafted an all-star since James Harden.
Now, context matters in the case of some of these clips. Yes, Sam Presti had not had a relatively great draft record over the past decade, his best picks during that time period being Terrence Ferguson in 2017 and Andre Roberson in 2013. But at the same time, the Thunder were not a team that was constantly picking lottery-wise. And in order to know why that was the case, we have to understand the situation in which Presti had put the Thunder, a situation that for the previous decade was both to the benefit and detriment of the franchise. So who exactly is the general manager of the Oklahoma City Thunder? To understand that, we have to go back in time. June 7th, 2007. Sam Presti, the 3-time NBA champion, as the assistant general manager of the San Antonio Spurs, is hired away by the Seattle Supersonics at just a mere age of 29 years, making him the second youngest general manager in the history of the NBA, behind only 4-time Executive of the Year Jerry Colangelo. Presti was regarded as one of the brightest minds in the NBA executive world. He graduated Emerson College in 1999, and a year later was hired by the Spurs general manager R.C. Buford after working a basketball camp for him. During a game, Presti offered Buford a sales pitch, running up and down the court alongside Buford, who was refereeing a game at the time. And impressed with Presti's ambition, the Spurs lead man offered the fresh out of college 24-year-old an internship with the Spurs. Over the next 3 years, Presti quickly rose up the ranks. By 2003, he was the director of player personnel, and by 2005, he became the vice president and assistant GM for Buford. Presti was known especially for a keen eye in scouting, instrumental in convincing the organization to draft Tony Parker in the 2001 draft, something that Parker, a future Hall of Famer, would later acknowledge as his jersey retirement speech. And Presti was instrumental for the Spurs to building the dynastic core pieces alongside superstar Tim Duncan that helped the organization dominate throughout the mid-2000s. And his unique outlook paid off, enticing Sonics owner Clay Bennett to interview the young Presti following the Spurs' third championship win in 5 seasons in 2007. Bennett's description of Presti post-hire on first impression of his future GM was that he was thoughtful, methodical, and measured. And it was these traits that named Presti the new head honcho for the Supersonics, as well as the defining characteristics that made him a household name in the NBA over the next 15 years. And Presti got straight to work.
With the second pick in the 2007 NBA Draft, the Seattle Supersonics select Kevin Durant from the University of Texas.
Nobody knew it yet, but Presti had set up the Sonics for at least the next decade. While the trades confirmed the Sonics were rebuilding, the excitement around Presti's first overall draft pick was palpable. Kevin Durant, one of the greatest college basketball players of the decade and one of the most hyped up prospects in NBA history, a guy who, had it not been for this draft including one Greg Oden, would have almost certainly been the first overall draft pick in any other draft class, was now a Seattle Supersonic. If that wasn't enough, Presti made 2 further blockbuster trades, letting go of veteran franchise icon Ray Allen in exchange for another top prospect in Jeff Green, as well as adding an extra 2 first-round picks by means of trading away Rashard Lewis and an exception received from that trade. These moves foreshadowed Presti's future trademark as an executive, but also indicated that the Sonics were officially in a new era. In spite of a 2007 and 8 campaign of just 20 wins by the Sonics, the future seemed bright as could be. Durant was named Rookie of the Year, and Presti was just getting started. The 2008 NBA Draft gifted the Thunder not 1, but 2 first-round picks. Remember that Rashard Lewis trade? That became the 24th overall pick. And the Thunder were also bad enough to receive the 4th pick in the lottery, meaning that they could still get one of the best players in the draft, which of course they did.
The 4th pick in the 2008 NBA Draft, the Seattle Supersonics select Russell Westbrook from UCLA. With the 24th pick in the 2008 NBA Draft, the Seattle Supersonics select Serge Ibaka from Brazzaville of the Republic of Congo.
Russell Westbrook and Serge Ibaka, 2 key members of Presti's young core. The future in Seattle was here. And then, Seattle no longer had a team.
Welcome back. At 4 p.m. today, U.S. District Judge Marcia Peckman was expected to issue her decision about whether the Sonics would have to stay in Seattle for 2 more years. At 4, she released this statement, quote, "The parties have settled the case. Details of the settlement will be released by the parties." Then exactly 1 hour later, the news was made public.
The NBA will be in Oklahoma City next season, playing their games.
Just like that, the beloved Seattle Supersonics were now the Oklahoma City Thunder. And with the city's new young core of stars, the Thunder now had the privilege of manifest destiny to championship glory. The following year, Presti got his second opportunity in 3 years to pick 2nd overall, a choice which he used to select Arizona State guard James Harden. Harden became the final piece to a Thunder core that quickly turned its fortune. In 2010, the Thunder won 50 games, qualifying for the playoffs as the 8th seed, led by Kevin Durant, who by now was not just the league's most talented young superstar, but one of the best players in the league, period. Durant averaged 30.1 points per game en route to a scoring title and finished as the runner-up in the MVP race. And while the Thunder lost to the number 1 seed and eventual NBA champion Los Angeles Lakers, they gave one hell of a fight, going 6 games and putting the league on notice. This was Presti's young core blossoming, made from savvy trades and some of the best draft picks in the league over the past 3 years. And those moves continue to pay dividends. The Thunder made the conference finals in each of the next 2 seasons, and in 2012 defeated the San Antonio Spurs and Presti's former boss R.C. Buford en route to their first finals appearance in Oklahoma City. By this point, Durant had notched 3 straight scoring titles. Westbrook was a perennial All-NBA player, and Harden had become the league's premier 6th man, as well as Ibaka emerging as one of the league's best defensive players. The former 3 in particular made up a storybook trio that was, unbeknown to anyone, ready to shape the history of the NBA before our eyes. Just not in the way we thought, however. Alongside seasoned veterans such as Kendrick Perkins and Derek Fisher, this Thunder team was a formidable foe to LeBron James and the Miami Heat Big Three. And even if they didn't win, Presti had put together a core that was ready to terrorize the league for years to come, right? And then it all fell apart. So here we are, 10 years later. The aftermath of the Thunder's promising rise to championship glory seems so distant, so blurry, and still so confusing. So what exactly happened? Well, first, the Thunder did not win in 2012. They got smoked in 5 games by the Miami Heat. But after that, things unraveled even more quickly. In the following offseason, OKC had 2 glaring contract extensions awaiting them, that of Serge Ibaka and of James Harden. The former was settled pretty quickly. As a role player, Ibaka landed a 4-year, $48 million deal that locked him up until 2017. Harden, on the other hand, was trickier, due to an unwillingness by owner Clay Bennett to pay the luxury tax and a subsequent inability by Sam Presti to get Harden to take a pay cut. The Thunder GM, without much leverage given that Harden wanted a max deal, shipped off the reigning 6th man of the year to the Houston Rockets in a trade where Oklahoma City received Kevin Martin, Jeremy Lamb, 2 first-round picks, and a second-round pick. The move was rightfully seen as the Thunder trading away one of the NBA's brightest young stars for very little in return. While Presti used part of that trade package effectively, drafting center Steven Adams with one of the 2 first-round picks, the Harden trade ultimately proved not only to be the rare trade in which Presti was out-leveraged as far as compensation, but also a trade that would spectacularly backfire. In the following years, Harden emerged as one of the league's best players and a perennial MVP candidate throughout the 2010s. The Harden trade also marked the beginning of the end for the KD Westbrook era. The following year, Harden's Rockets met the number 1 seed Thunder in the first round, and although the Thunder beat the Rockets, the round came with a gut-wrenching blow, as Game 2 ended Westbrook's season prematurely due to a torn ACL. An ACL tear that broke Westbrook's Iron Man streak dating back to his days as a high school basketball player, and started a spell in which Westbrook struggled to stay healthy, even throughout his prime. With Durant being forced to carry the load into the following season, the Thunder began to fall apart, both in team chemistry and otherwise. Injuries to Durant, Westbrook, and Ibaka saw Oklahoma City take a step back in trajectory, even as Durant won MVP honors in 2014 before they missed the playoffs entirely the next season. That 2015 season coming in between 2 years of conference finals appearances, and the latter of those 2 appearances in 2016 was especially notable. OKC faced a rising Warriors team who had won the championship the year prior and now had won 73 games in the 2016 season. And they had Golden State on the ropes in spite of being the underdog. The best regular season team in NBA history was down 3 games to 1. But the Warriors came back. A come-from-behind Game 6 victory at Oklahoma City, followed by a narrow win in the Bay, secured Golden State an appearance in the NBA Finals. And just like that, the Thunder's season was over. But the nightmare? It was just beginning.
Thanks for coming out. this is a great day for the Golden State Warriors, a great day for the NBA, and really something truly significant that we are proud to share with all of you. I'm Bob Fitzgerald, the Warriors TV announcer. I want to welcome those of you watching on CSN Bay Area, those of you listening on KNBR. We want to welcome our owner, Joe Lacob, who is here. Our president, Rick Welts, is here. And Kevin Durant's people, Wayne Pratt, his father, is here. Rayvon Lee, his brother, is here. Rich Kleiman, his agent. Charlie Bell, his business manager. And Thomas Abbey, who handles all his security. We have the 2015 Executive of the Year, the GM of the Warriors, Bob Myers. The 2016 Coach of the Year, Steve Kerr. And the Rookie of the Year, an Olympic gold medalist, a 4-time scoring champion, a 7-time All-Star, an MVP of the league, Kevin Durant.
July 4th, 2016. A day that lives in infamy for Thunder fans. Kevin Durant signs with the 73-9 Golden State Warriors. One of the greatest teams in NBA history added a former MVP in his prime, creating an overpowering monopoly on not just the NBA, but the Western Conference, and simultaneously weakening the Warriors' strongest challenger in said conference fatally. Sam Presti was never the same after this. Just a few weeks prior, Presti had traded Serge Ibaka, another piece on the Thunder's 2012 core, to the Orlando Magic for a younger Victor Oladipo and the draft rights to an eventual starting power forward and future All-NBA player in Domantas Sabonis, giving OKC some reassuring depth and offensive power to add alongside Westbrook and Durant, who they were confident were going to stay. But now he was gone, and it didn't matter. Nothing mattered anymore. Westbrook won an MVP the next season, and Oklahoma City was still only the 7th seed in the West. They traded both Sabonis and Oladipo to get another superstar in Paul George the very next offseason. Both years, back-to-back first-round exits, one at the hands of James Harden too. The Thunder doubled down on the Paul George and Russell Westbrook experiment, extending Paul George amidst rumors of him signing to the Lakers in free agency, only to lose yet again, this time in one of the most deflating way possible. Damian Lillard buzzer beat. And then it was all over.
They traded for Paul George tonight, and they are sending to Oklahoma City essentially a record collection of draft picks, 4 first-round picks, 4 unprotected future first-round picks, a protected future first-round pick, 2 pick swaps.
Open up and say thank you to Chris Paul. He was a great Warrior for us, arguably one of the greatest Rockets teams while he was here. But to get something great, you got to give up something great. And I'm pleased on behalf of Tillman Fertitta and the Fertitta family to welcome Russell Westbrook and his wonderful family to Houston.
July 6th, 2019. Paul George traded to the Los Angeles Clippers in one of the largest trade packages in NBA history. 6 first-round picks, an additional 2 players, a trade in which Sam Presti would later acknowledge was a result of zero leverage in keeping the recently extended George in a small market, given his desire to one day play in LA. The end was here. 5 days later, Russell Westbrook too was shipped away for 4 first-round picks and point guard Chris Paul, who, while being a future Hall of Famer, was now treated as merely a salary dump for the Rockets to acquire the 2017 MVP. In just 1 week, Oklahoma City had given away their 2 best players in exchange for 10 first-round picks. 2 weeks later, Sam Presti confirmed it, admitting to the fan base that the new goal was to reposition and replenish the organization for, quote, future success. In other words, the rebuild had begun. Or did it?
So Adams launches it to Schroeder. Schroeder catches and scores to tie it at 1.
Let the guys start to lick their wounds and get ready for the next one. He's telling himself, I got to stop.
Now attempted 20 free throws here in this first half.
Adams. Oh, he got it to go. Put it up like a baseball pass. SGA trying to size up Russell. Oh, what a nifty move. Found enough space as he chisels his way to the rim.
Can we say hang time? You know, everybody's getting involved. Look at this nice little development here and the scoop shot.
The 2019-2020 Thunder team were the furthest thing away from a rebuilding organization. Instead of tanking or losing in any way, the Thunder skyrocketed to a top 5 seed in the Western Conference. The 35-year-old Chris Paul had now become a leader on a young group of hungry vagabonds that had become a formidable foe come playoff time. This Thunder team ended up going 7 games in the first round against that very same Rockets team that included now 2 former Thunder players, Russell Westbrook and James Harden, the latter of whom finished his 6th of 7 straight seasons as an MVP finalist. Ultimately, the Thunder lost the series, however, and even though it came down to the final shot, Presti doubled down on his stance to rebuild, as in the following offseason, Chris Paul was traded, but because of his leadership, Paul's value actually increased from the previous year, giving Presti the ability to negotiate for yet another first-round draft pick to add to his already vast collection. 2 years later, we're here, but things aren't too much different from that 2019-2020 squad. Chris Paul was gone, sure. Steven Adams was also no longer on the team, but 2 stars from that 2020 squad were still here. And contrary to the rest of the team, they were pretty good. But before we get into who those 2 players are, let's rewind back to when Paul George got traded to provide some context, because we didn't mention something earlier.
They traded for Paul George tonight, and they are sending to Oklahoma City essentially a record collection of draft picks, 4 first-round picks, 4 unprotected future first-round picks, a protected future first-round pick, 2 pick swaps, and outstanding rookie point guard Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Now, who exactly is this skinny point guard wearing number 2 that has a last name as long as a Martin Scorsese film? Well, he's now only one of 15 players in the history of the league to win an MVP, a championship, and a finals MVP all in the same season. He's the 2025 NBA scoring champ. He's a man who, in spite of all of this success at the pro level, was never just handed out an opportunity. Gilgeous-Alexander's senior season in high school was a far cry from the player he would eventually become. Even as a scorer, Gilgeous-Alexander averaged a mere 17 points per game as a high schooler. Still, college coaches saw his talent. Shai was recruited out of Kentucky in 2017 by legendary college coach John Calipari as the 30th ranked player in the country, in a recruiting class where he was still overshadowed by other star freshmen, including the likes of Kevin Knox, PJ Washington, Nick Richards, and Jared Vanderbilt. Despite being on a team with several more highly regarded freshmen, Shai stood out, earning a starting role and emerging as the 2nd leading scorer for the Wildcats in the 2017-18 season, a year in which Kentucky advanced all the way to the Elite 8. Watching as his draft stock soared, SGA declared early for the draft, and despite being projected as a lottery pick, Shai was overshadowed by more superior prospects in what was a loaded draft class. Prospects such as DeAndre Ayton, Luka Doncic, Trae Young, Michael Porter Jr., Marvin Bagley, and his Kentucky teammate Kevin Knox. Come draft night, Shai ended up being selected 11th overall by the Charlotte Hornets, but was immediately traded to the Los Angeles Clippers. Yet, once again, Shai beat the odds, earning a starting role on the Clippers team with little expectations following the departure of star Blake Griffin, and finishing the year as a 2nd-team All-Rookie, while helping LA make an unexpected run to the playoffs as an 8th seed. In spite of being heavy underdogs against a Warriors team whose entire starting 5 were all NBA players, Shai led LA to drag the series to 6 games against all odds, thanks in part to a 31-point comeback in Game 2, in which Shai scored a career high in points at the time. Following the Paul George trade, Shai began to blossom into a rising star, With Chris Paul's mentorship, Gilgeous-Alexander became the crucial second star alongside Paul that catalyzed the Thunder's surprise run to the playoffs. And as Presti continued to gut the roster, Shea improved, transforming into a perennial 25 points per game scorer while doubling his assists per game. But during that time, Shea also struggled with injuries. In 2021, Shea's season ended prematurely due to a plantar fascia tear, and in 2022, his season ended due to a nagging ankle injury. And it was during this time where Oklahoma City especially struggled. Without other complementary pieces, the Thunder were losing on a regular basis. At worst, it was a case for the Grizzlies game. At best, it was Shea dragging the Thunder to the doorstep of victory, only for something like this to happen.
Foul him, and they do. He got it. He fouled him. Garrett Temple tried to foul him. 1.4 to play, out of timeouts. Garrett Temple reads for him, didn't get him, and gives Shea Gilgeous-Alexander credit as Devontae sends it. Gets it! The game winner! Oh, wow! Devontae Graham's.
Clearly, Shea could not do this on his own. He needed help, and one player was already there. Luguentz Dort. Lou Dort went undrafted in 2019 out of Arizona State, but was signed to a two-way contract shortly after the draft with the OKC Thunder. He impressed in training camp and in the G League, and after making his debut a month into the NBA season, quickly earned a starting spot on a Thunder frontcourt desperately needing reinforcements. Remember that 7-game series against the Rockets? Well, it was Lou Dort who was the hero of the series. It was Dort who took on the challenge of James Harden all series long, forcing the former MVP into unusual turnovers. And it was Dort who OKC gave the last shot for the Thunder in Game 7, a shot that was blocked by James Harden. And this was nothing new for Lou Dort. Defense was his identity. He had become a stalwart for OKC due to his defense, and by 2022, it was clear that Dort was now in need of a bigger contract in order to keep him long-term. And he was staying long-term, regardless of his obvious offensive limitations. And after a 2022 campaign in which Dort averaged a career-high 17.2 points per game, Dort signed a 5-year extension that ensured that the Thunder's defensive heart and soul remained intact. But still, the Thunder needed other reinforcements.
Good evening, and welcome to the 2022 NBA Draft at Barclays Center.
The day of the 2022 NBA Draft was a monumental one for the franchise. As Oklahoma City continued to lose, their draft options got much better. And thanks to Presti's savvy trades back in 2019, as well as the Chris Paul trade, Oklahoma City entered the 2022 NBA Draft with 3 first-round picks, including the 2nd overall pick. And in a loaded draft class, the Thunder had a plethora of options. But one player remained on everyone's mind.
With the 2nd pick in the 2022 NBA Draft, the Oklahoma City Thunder select Chet Holmgren from Gonzaga University.
Unlike Shea or Lou Dort, Holmgren was hyped from day one. In spite of a lack of bulk to his 7-foot frame, Chet Holmgren entered the 2021 recruiting window as the #1 prospect. And after a stellar freshman year at Gonzaga, he declared early for the 2022 NBA Draft, widely seen as the consensus #2 prospect behind Duke superstar Paolo Banchero. With the lottery giving the Thunder their 3rd second overall pick in 15 years, many could not help compare the lanky stretch 5 to another near 7-foot prospect whose great handles and 3-level scoring enticed Sam Presti. But Holmgren was a different player. He was regarded as a defensive ace, a shot blocker, and a future elite rim protector. And with Steven Adams having departed that role a couple years prior, the Thunder needed to fill a void at center in order to contend with teams like the Denver Nuggets and 2-time MVP Nikola Jokic. Holmgren was their guy. But what about the pick number 12? This one was more of a wild card, and by the time OKC got to their 12th pick, they had already made one extra selection, having traded 3 first-rounders from the upcoming draft in order to acquire the 11th overall pick in 2022, which they had used to select Ousmane Dieng, yet another tall, lanky forward with good handles and an ability to play defense. So with number 12, of course, Presti doubled down on what he had just drafted.
With the 12th pick in the 2022 NBA Draft, the Oklahoma City Thunder select Jalen Williams from Santa Clara University.
Coming into the draft, Jalen Williams was seen mostly as a boomer bust prospect. The right situation, he could thrive. The wrong one, he would flame out. And for OKC, Williams was perfect. A 6'6" guard/forward hybrid with elite ball handling skills that provided Shea a secondary scorer and a versatile defender capable of guarding 1 through 5. Finally, OKC had one last pick, and they traded that pick to the Denver Nuggets, kicking the can down the road to 2027. But coming out of this draft, OKC had landed 3 lottery picks. The future could not be more bright. But even before any game was played, the Thunder faced yet another setback.
I have breaking news in the NBA that you need to know. Let's go there right now. Again, breaking news into First Take right now. Oklahoma City Thunder rookie Chet Holmgren, the number 2 overall pick, will miss the 2022-2023 season because of an injury to his right foot. The team announced today. He suffered the injury early in the Crossover Pro-Am event while defending LeBron James on a fast break. Again, the number 2 overall pick missing the entire season.
And just like that, Holmgren's rookie year was put on sabbatical. Well, at least you have Jalen Williams.
Over to Giddey. He's going to get it on the baseline, has to move quickly. Giddey spins, shot off the rim. Put back by J-Dub as he delivers.
And Detroit has no timeout. Yeah. That's game time, folks. He does just that. And all the Thunder started doing is loading up guys in the paint. And that ball comes off at the right point for J-Dub to do this, folks. He's all by himself. It just takes his time.
You know, just like, you know, I kind of wear on you sometimes. You wear on me. You get a little attitude on the flight on Friday night back from Portland.
Oh, J-Dub soars up for the flush.
Trigger. Yeah. Speaking of pulling the trigger.
Yeah, this is a quick one here. He just rises up. Statue of Liberty. See that little pose as he got up there, folks? Just hangs it up there.
He owns it. There is no doubt.
I mean, it is just phenomenal, man. He's got such pressure on him.
Oh, there's a phenomenal pass as Jay Will sets it up, puts it on a platter for the hammer.
In your rookie season. I mean, look at this one here, folks. He just climbs the ladder and says, "Get out the way."
Paisley defending Young, and it got swatted away. Swatted away by J-Dub. Kenrich sends it right back to him as he powers it down.
From day one, Jalen Williams put himself on the map. Efficient, tough, and a do-it-all weapon, Jalen Williams quickly became the second best player for Oklahoma City. At just 21 years of age, Williams was the 3rd leading scorer for the Thunder and led the team in field goal percentage as a rookie, earning himself all rookie honors as well as a runner-up finish in the Rookie of the Year race to only the aforementioned Paolo Banchero. Thanks to Williams and now a fully healthy Shea, OKC rose 16 wins from the previous year's win total and qualifying for the NBA's play-in tournament. After defeating the New Orleans Pelicans, OKC came just 1 game from qualifying to the playoffs, and although they would lose that game to the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Thunder made it very clear. They were here and they were ready to take off. And if that was enough, Chet Holmgren was now on his way, and OKC also just drafted yet another defensive ace at guard in Cason Wallace. The rise is near. Going into the 2023-24 season, Oklahoma City had high expectations. They were a young team, and outside of the defending champions Denver Nuggets, the Western Conference was wide open, thanks in part to the aging cores of teams such as the Lakers and the Warriors, thanks in part to the fall-off of the Phoenix Suns, and very much thanks in part to the stupidity of one Memphis Grizzlies team and their superstar who couldn't stop flashing guns on Instagram. The Thunder capitalized on all of this.
In just one shot, and Gilgeous-Alexander pulls the string on the 7'4" guy. Giddey fake pass, then gives it up for Holmgren.
And Holmgren, the most dangerous ones. Giddey looking. Holmgren's got it, turns, fires. He hit it!
He was on the line, though, I think. He might have been on the line.
So it went to 0-0.
They got to review it.
Steph had that 3 blocked.
Wow. Here comes Shea off to the races. And he will cruise in and lay it up and in.
At over 11. And how about OKC? Chet Holmgren going vertical.
By season's end, Oklahoma City was the cream of the crop, a 57-25 record. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was now one of the league's premier players, one of the best foul baiters, a rising playmaker averaging 6 assists per game, and finishing runner-up in the MVP race. Chet Holmgren was as advertised, continuing the tradition of Rookie of the Year runner-ups after Jalen Williams, while averaging 16 points per game, 8 rebounds per game, and 2.3 blocks per game, as a rookie. In fact, had it not been for 2 French big men, Holmgren might have been in consideration for Defensive Player of the Year, again, as a rookie. And speaking of defense, Dort was still in the fold, and continued to be the anchor of the Thunder frontcourt, alongside Jalen Williams, who is now in year 2 among the NBA's top two-way forwards, and even as he changed positions from shooting guard to power forward, still remained eager to take on the players defensively who far outsized him. The Thunder entered the playoffs as the number 1 seed in the Western Conference and advanced in the Western Conference semifinals before being upset by Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks. Regardless, however, of the final outcome of the season, the Thunder had made monumental steps in the rebuild, and at this point, everyone knew that this team was just about hitting their prime together. Sam Presti knew this as well and was ready to go all in. After all, they had the picks to afford an all-in move while still being able to continue adding extra pieces via the draft. And this team was still very young. Williams was only 22 years old and Holmgren was only 20. And in their first year in the playoffs, they were part of a number 1 seeded team. Even veterans on this team such as Shai and Dort were still relatively young, both being only 25 years of age. This was an extraordinary amount of success for such a young team. And while all the success may seem like it writes its own headlines, the Thunder, for what it's worth, being a small market team, just did not get a lot of media attention during the 2024 season. Their biggest headline turned out to be a non-basketball related topic, albeit a very serious topic, but also ended up being a blessing in disguise. That headline was in that of former lottery pick Josh Giddey, who the Thunder had drafted 6th overall in 2021. Giddey had been drafted with high expectations of providing SGA with a playmaking and scoring partner that took less attention off of one of the league's best scorers. But in November 2023, Giddey's profile took a different focus when he was accused of having a relationship with an underage girl while he was 19 years old. The accusations were enough for the NBA to launch an investigation on the matter alongside the Newport Beach Police Department. Now, it should be noted that the police closed their investigation 2 months later with no evidence of Giddey committing any crime, and the NBA followed suit 4 months later. But nonetheless, the allegations destroyed Giddey's public image and provided extra non-basketball related attention on a team in the midst of having championship aspirations. In addition to Giddey's own stagnation and development on the court, with both his points and assist numbers dropping dramatically from the previous year, and Giddey became extremely expendable. So for Sam Presti, who was looking to upgrade the roster following their defeat to the Mavericks, Giddey's downfall during the 2024 season provided a perfect excuse to trade him straight up for Alex Caruso, a back-to-back All-NBA defender on the trade block. And he did so without having to give up any extra picks. On June 21st, 2024, Giddey was traded for Alex Caruso. And just like that, the 2025 offseason had begun for Oklahoma City. But there was still one player Presti wanted. Someone who had solidified himself as one of the NBA's most underrated big men and a key piece for a postseason team that resembled the versatile identity of defense that the Thunder had built. So on July 6, 2024, Sam Presti signed Isaiah Hartenstein from the New York Knicks. The core was set. Oklahoma City had a starting 5 as good as any in the entire league. Entering the 2024-25 season, the Thunder had the second best odds behind only the defending champion Boston Celtics to win the championship. But what they did next was even better.
Backdoor! Got sniffed out by Hartenstein! Looked for a moment like it was lined up for Portland. Big block. And on the other end, the big fella!
Well, how about that? He blocked the alley-oop. on the other end runs the court, makes himself available.
So you got half a quarter to go. Trying to get your first win in this building in a while as Jalen Williams flies up to the rim.
How about this pass right here, folks? This is moments ago we were talking about. This is by Isaiah. Falling down. Was that behind the back? My goodness.
That'll be 3 home games in a matter of 5 weeks. So a really challenging road stretch for the Thunder here during this time.
All right, thank you, Paris. And coming out of the timeout, Cason Wallace, full levitation in transition.
He was going to do that. Great passing lane steal. And he just rises up. Now, if he doesn't get up that high, he could possibly get taken out on this play. Not that he was intentionally trying.
The 2024-25 Oklahoma City Thunder were dominant from start to finish. They have finished the regular season with 68 wins, one of the best regular seasons in NBA history. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander got even better, 32.7 points per game, a career high. 51% shooting, another career high. Career highs in assists, blocks, and win shares, leading the league in defensive win shares. The NBA's best two-way player, league MVP. Furthermore, the Thunder now had not one, but 2 All-NBA defenders in Lou Dort and Jalen Williams. OKC tore through the first round, exalting revenge on the Grizzlies in the exact same way that they had suffered in 2021. They endured a 7-game thriller against the Denver Nuggets in the battle of the MVPs. They crushed the Timberwolves in the Western Conference Finals. And now, after 7 games against the Indiana Pacers, they were NBA champions. But this team is far from done. The 2025 Oklahoma City Thunder are the 2nd youngest team to ever win a championship. Their oldest player is Alex Caruso, who's merely 30 years old. Their 2024 first-round pick, Nikola Topic, has yet to play his first game. And with every player under contract for next year and having won 68 games this year, Oklahoma City not only is the easy title favorite for next year, but also has a chance to improve on their historic season. They have a chance to break records. And this team still has another 8 first-round picks over the next 4 seasons, as well as cap space and the contractual assets to make a splash for another superstar or 2 if they want to. So what's next for the Thunder? Well, knowing that this is Sam Presti, it's most likely that everything will start with the draft. Even 7 years after the original trades, the Thunder will still be reaping rewards in 2026 from the Clippers and the Rockets for the Paul George and Russell Westbrook trades respectively, giving Presti 3 first-round picks to work with next season, including the Thunder's own. There is a good chance, however, that all 3 of these first-round picks end up being non-lottery picks, given the success of all 3 teams. So my guess is that Sam Presti ends up trading these picks back, as they won't be valuable enough to use to trade for a superstar, nor are they good enough to get one of the top prospects next year. Thanks to the pick from the Chris Paul trade, OKC also has 2 picks in 2027 in the first round. With Presti's track record, it seems like the Thunder GM at the very least is using all of these extra picks to ensure himself in the case of another James Harden or Kevin Durant situation, where he can't afford to keep one of his own players or a player just ends up walking away. And granted, that won't be a problem for the Thunder for the time being, as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander just received a 5-year, $380 million extension in 2024, and both Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren are still on rookie deals. It also helps that, unlike 2012, the salary cap is a lot different today, relying on aprons that level out the playing field as is, benefiting a small market team like the Thunder in case such situations happen where they have to trade one of their players. Moreover, the Thunder have the advantage of a forecasted salary cap explosion of 10% for every team for the 2025-26 season, thanks to a new media rights deal by the NBA, something that can pad any damage that may be done by the Thunder not wanting to go into the luxury tax. This is something that, had the Thunder known the future back in 2012, might have been able to prevent them from trading away James Harden, as a TV deal in 2016 would have provided the Thunder the ability to pay Harden max money without going into said luxury tax. But with this season being the expected salary cap rise, Presti will be far more able to extend both Williams and Holmgren in the near future. Players such as Lou Dort and Cason Wallace seem likely to be able to stay in the near future, given the fact that even without any salary cap rise, the Thunder have 9.1 in tax space as of today, meaning that in a few years when Wallace is due for an extension, and assuming that he remains mainly the defensive role player that he was this year, Wallace is very likely to sign a team-friendly deal, much like Dort did in 2022. Even if Wallace does emerge as an even better than his original draft expectations, it still benefits OKC as they can trade him to add even more picks to their stockpile without having to feel like they're being out-leveraged as they were in the Harden situation, which would hurt them as they have other draft picks. And that brings me to the second point. As much as Presti's vision starts with his draft moves, Presti is also an expert at managing the salary cap and balancing it with using picks according to roster limitations. The best examples of this are with both Alex Caruso, who for his value is one of the best contracts in the NBA, and Isaiah Hartenstein, whose deal is both team-friendly for the Thunder, but also expensive enough to where Presti can use him as a trade asset if he wants to exchange him for a more expensive superstar. There is no doubt that looking past the 2025-26 season, both Caruso and Hartenstein are expendable, especially given that they are the oldest members and subsequently the most likely players to regress in the near future on the entire team. With all the young players up for extensions in the next few years, it's also very likely that both Caruso and Hartenstein get dealt before the end of their contracts, either for more picks or a superstar. Whether those trades are utilized to build a super team or to shed salary as Presti ensures the future of this organization is unknown and entirely dependent on how the next couple years transpire. But there are a wide assortment of possibilities as to how OKC looks even 2 to 3 years down the line. In the meantime, Presti has perfectly ensured the depth of this roster, using his second round picks as effectively as he has drafting lottery picks. Bench players such as Kenrich Williams, Isaiah Joe, and Aaron Wiggins, guys that were all starters at some point on the rebuilding 2022 roster and whose extensive playing time during that time period gave them valuable experience as they took on lesser and lesser minutes, are still on the team, and on team-friendly contracts at that. Meanwhile, the picks from past drafts, Nikola Topic and Ousmane Dieng, are still exciting draws that, if they reach their full potential, could give the Thunder even more star power than they already have. And since both players are still on rookie deals, the Thunder have perfected the art of a high-ceiling, high-floor championship favorite, being a team whose floor is this season, a year where they won 68 games and a championship, and whose ceiling is having 6 former lottery picks, multiple former starters as bench players, and even then, extra cap space to spend in free agency, as well as trade assets and picks. This means that Oklahoma City can win back-to-back in 2026, three-peat in 2027, and still continue to retool any leaks in their machine along the way. At worst. At best, OKC builds a team in an era that is supposed to be anti-dynasty, that could not only be one of the best dynasties in NBA history, but one of the greatest rosters in all of sport in any given year for the next half-decade.
What makes this Oklahoma City team that much more special is that, as a small market team, Sam Presti's rebuild plan from 2019 onwards came at a time where every team was making earth-shaking trades to acquire superstars in order to compete with the super teams that the Warriors, Cavs, Heat, and Celtics had created over the past decade. In that era, the Thunder went the complete opposite way. They capitalized off of the mistakes and shortcomings of every other team, so desperate to win just one championship that they sacrificed their fallback plans. It's that much more impressive given that the Thunder were able to do this as a small market team, as the NBA changed collective bargaining agreements and salary rules to make maintaining talent that much more difficult, and as an extreme experiment that would dictate the future of the league as far as team building. Was the league going to be star-driven, depth-driven, or a mix of both? The Thunder didn't get swayed into any category, but quickly reinstituted the value of draft picks, even as others questioned them, and the importance of building a homegrown roster into a core that can still further improve from outside or through the draft. But that's up to the Thunder.
Oklahoma City has a golden opportunity to do something that no team has ever done in NBA history. It's cliche, I know, but what's not cliche is what OKC has already done. They have already built a team that has won the 4th most games in a season in NBA history, regular plus postseason. A team that features an MVP and scoring champ, as well as not one but 2 All-NBA defenders, one of the league's best young rim protectors, several other quality starters as role players, prospects who have yet to come close to reaching their full potential, and one of the deepest benches in the league. A team that might be one of the greatest defenses in the last 20 years. A team that was perfectly architected like the rings from Mordor, thanks to bold gambles on the future, aggressive stockpiling of draft picks, and a keen eye for talent. A team that is here thanks to the past of darkness, heartbreak, and regrets, as well as a brilliant mind who was a prodigy from the day he set foot into the NBA. And a team that is just getting started, who has reaped the rewards of superstar after superstar departing the franchise to secure both the present and the future. The Oklahoma City Thunder aren't just here to stay. They aren't just the NBA's newest potential dynasty. They're the perfect potential dynasty. Just take out the word potential. Yeah, that's more like it.